But instead, a stunned collector pulled it out, looked closer, and realized he was holding a quarter that would eventually sell for over $1 million. Most people have handled a 1998 D. Washington quarter at some point in their life. They jingled them in their pockets, tossed them on counters, paid for coffee with them. But one version of this coin, an ultra-rare minting mistake born in complete silence inside the Denver Mint, is now making collectors gasp, dealers scramble, and ordinary people wonder if they accidentally spent a fortune without ever knowing it. The story begins with a rumor, a whisper among numismatists in the early 2000s. A few collectors insisted they had seen something unusual in a small batch of 1998 D quarters. A strange surface, an odd shine, an alignment that didn't match the normal strike. But nobody believed them. Nobody could imagine a modern quarter changing someone's life for over $1 million. But everything changed when one man brought his pocket change into a local coin shop. A regular guy, nothing fancy, carrying a plastic bag full of quarters he had been saving for months. He poured them out on the counter, and the dealer's expression froze. Buried in that pile was the quarter that would ignite one of the greatest mysteries of the late 90s minting era. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The dealer picked up the coin, tilted it under the lamp, and whispered, "This is impossible." The strike was too deep, the lettering too bold. The fields carried a mirror-like sheen not found in regular circulation strikes. It looked like a coin that had been struck not once, but twice. And perhaps even more alarming, the edges showed evidence of a die meant for a completely different finish. Collectors around the country were shocked when word spread. Some thought it was a hoax. Others believed the Denver Mint had accidentally released a handful of experimental coins that were never meant to leave the facility. A few insisted it was part of a test run for a special finish used in later commemorative issues. But nobody knew for sure. The origin of this rare 1998 D quarter remains one of the most whispered secrets of modern coinage. But this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The coin shows a hybrid strike. It carries characteristics of a proof-like finish, even though Denver never produced proof coins. The surfaces shimmer with unexpected brilliance, yet the devices are sharply raised, almost sculpted. Under magnification, the quarter reveals microscopic doubling along the letters in Liberty and the date 1998, a doubling so subtle that you can blink and miss it. But if it is there, you're looking at a life-changing discovery. One collector said that when he first saw this strange quarter, his heart started racing. It looked like it had been struck on a highly polished die normally used for proofs. But the edges suggested something else entirely, as if the planchet itself wasn't the standard clad planchet used that year. Some experts believe these rare quarters were struck on leftover experimental planchets from a 90s test program, making them dramatically different from anything the public was supposed to receive. But then came the moment that pushed this story into legend. The coin was authenticated, verified, and sent to auction. And when it crossed the block, the bidding battle grew so heated that even the auctioneer paused in disbelief. The final hammer price? Nearly $1.5 million for a single 1998 D. Washington quarter. Dealers were stunned. Collectors were electrified. And the public realized something unbelievable. An ordinary quarter from the late 1990s, a coin millions of Americans spent without a second thought, could secretly be worth over $1 million. But this is where the story takes a dramatic turn, because after that sale, more people began examining their pocket change. And a few more examples of strange, proof-like 1998 D quarters surfaced, but not many. Each one seemed to have its own quirks, its own subtle errors, its own mysterious markings from dies that were never supposed to be used for circulation. Some had stronger doubling, some had a deeper cameo contrast, and some had a slightly off-center strike combined with brilliant fields that shouldn't exist in a business strike coin. Every time one is discovered, collectors hold their breath, waiting to see if it might be the next million-dollar miracle. But what you're about to hear is the detail that most people overlook, and it's the detail that might be hiding right now in your own drawer, your own change jar, your own glove compartment. Look closely at the mint mark. The D should be clean and sharp. But on the rare million-dollar varieties, the mint mark often appears slightly tilted or shows faint doubling. Then examine Washington's jawline and the letters in "In God We Trust." The rare error coins show a ghost-like doubling along the edges, a doubling caused by a die that shifted micrometers during the strike. Now flip the coin over. The eagle on the reverse should show unusually bold feathers. Feathers so detailed they look engraved rather than stamped. The tail feathers in particular will appear layered, with fine lines that normal 1998 D quarters do not have. But the most important giveaway is the shine. A regular 1998 D quarter has a duller, more muted finish. But the ultra-rare million-dollar variety looks almost like a mirror, especially around the date and lettering. Tilt it toward the light. If it flashes like a proof coin, your heart might skip a beat. But what happened next in the collecting world is what really cemented this coin's legend. Collectors realized that these experimental or mistaken proof-like strikes might have been the result of a rushed minting cycle near the end of the year. Some believe a small number of proof dies were accidentally installed on Denver's business strike presses. Others believe the mint experimented with special planchets, then failed to properly separate the test coins before circulation. Whatever the truth is, the Denver Mint has never officially confirmed anything. And that silence only adds to the mystery. And because of that mystery, every single 1998 D quarter that passes through a collector's hands is studied with wide-eyed hope, because one of them, one out of millions, might be the jackpot coin worth more than $1 million. But stay with me, because here's the moment every collector leans in for, that if you want to identify the true rarity, you must examine 4 things with absolute precision. First, the doubling. Check the date 1998, the word liberty, and the phrase "I in God we trust." Even the faintest doubling is a huge sign. Second, the mint mark. Look for tilted placement or ghost-like doubling around the D. Third, the finish. The rare variety has an unmistakable mirror-like gleam, brighter and sharper than any normal Denver strike. Fourth, the reverse details. The eagle's feathers should look deep, bold, almost sculpted, with crisp texture. Miss any of these, and you could overlook a coin worth over $1 million. Collectors have spent years chasing this treasure. Some search rolls every week. Others buy bags of quarters from banks hoping lightning will strike. And still, the number of known rare 1998 D proof-like errors remains so tiny that each new find sends shockwaves through the coin community. And today, that possibility might be right in front of you. Take a moment. Think about all the quarters you've handled since 1998. All the trips, the purchases, the vending machines, the coin jars, the drawers full of forgotten change. Any one of those moments could have placed this life-changing coin in your hands without you ever knowing it. Because somewhere out there, a handful of these mysterious 1998 D Washington quarters are still waiting to be discovered, still hiding in circulation, still glinting in the shadows, waiting for someone with patience, curiosity, and just a little bit of luck, and the next person who finds one. Their ordinary pocket change may transform into a miracle worth well over $1 million. The 2002 Tennessee quarter, a state quarter so ordinary, so overlooked, it slips through cash registers every single day, carrying a secret that has stunned collectors, shook dealers, and turned one man's routine pocket change into a life-changing treasure, $1 million from a 25-cent coin. Imagine the feeling pulsing through his chest when he realized what he was holding, a coin everyone else ignored. But before we get to that jaw-dropping discovery, you need to hear the mysterious backstory of this Tennessee quarter, a backstory the U.S. Mint never intended to become public, because something happened in 2002. Something inside the Philadelphia Mint. And for years, the whispers were dismissed as rumors, until one coin surfaced that changed everything. For most people, Tennessee's musical-themed quarter is nothing special. 3 instruments, a banner of musical heritage, a beautiful design, yes, but nothing dramatic. Except one tiny detail was off. Shockingly off. A detail that would eventually explode into the numismatic world like a thunderclap. Dealers said it was impossible. Collectors laughed it off. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector in rural Kentucky opens a small jar of change, a jar he'd kept next to his old recliner for nearly a decade. He reaches in, just to grab laundry quarters, and he notices something odd. The Tennessee quarter at the top felt thick. Too thick. Almost swollen that he thought it was pocket grime. Dirt. Where? But when he tilted it under a lamp, the coin shimmered in a way he had never seen. Something inside the metal looked wrong that he cleaned his glasses, tilted it again, and that's when his voice caught in his throat. The outer ring of the quarter appeared doubled. Not a scratch, not damage. A full, clean, jaw-dropping double strike. The kind that escapes the mint once in a generation. And right beside the guitar strings, a ghost image imprint appeared, as if the design had been hammered twice before leaving the die. His heart pounded so hard, he said it felt like a drum in his chest. "This can't be real," he whispered, but it was real. Very real that he brought the coin to a local dealer who nearly fell out of his chair. "That's not damage," the dealer muttered. "That's a minting mistake. A serious one." Within days, pictures of the coin spread quietly through private collector groups. Whispers turned into phone calls. Phone calls turned into offers. And offers turned into an unbelievable bidding war. Over $1 million to $1 million for a 2002 Tennessee quarter that nearly ended up inside a washing machine. Collectors were shocked, dealers were scrambling, and suddenly, every jar, drawer, glove compartment, and coin roll became a battlefield of frantic searching. Because if one of these Tennessee double strikes escaped the mint, there could be others. And that's when the real mystery deepened. Most people don't know this, but 2002 was a chaotic year in the Philadelphia Mint. Machines were breaking down. Dies were overused. Presses were rushed to meet state quarter deadlines. Several employees later admitted privately that certain error coins were impossible to catch before bags were sealed. And hidden inside those bags were the Tennessee errors, the failed die alignment, the doubled outer rim, the ghost image imprint, and in some cases, a rotated die strike so forceful the quarter looks twisted when rotated under light. Mint-generated mechanical anomalies that survive only when the press operator doesn't notice the misalignment in time. And now comes the twist collectors never saw coming. A second Tennessee error surfaced years later. This one wasn't doubled. It was missing a full section of the musical banner, a partial strike error created when the die jammed mid-press. It didn't sell for $1 million, but it sold for enough to make the winning bidder's hands shake as he held the receipt. Each new discovery pushed collectors deeper into obsession. Because the Tennessee quarter wasn't just another state coin anymore, it was a mystery, a treasure map, a symbol of hope that somewhere, in someone's pocket, lightning might strike again. But here's the attention reset that hits hardest. These errors don't scream at you. They whisper, they hide. Most people miss them because they're tiny, subtle, almost invisible unless you know exactly where to look. And now, I'm going to tell you exactly how to find one. Lean in for this part, because this is the moment that could change everything. First, flip the coin under a bright light. Tennessee quarters tend to reveal their secrets when light moves across the surface like a wave. Look at the outer rim. A normal Tennessee quarter has a clean, consistent circular border. But the $1 million version shows a doubled ring, like two outlines overlapping each other. If you see that, your heart should start pounding. Next, check the instruments. The violin strings and guitar lines should be razor sharp. But on the rare errors, the strings look doubled or ghosted, almost like the press struck twice without perfect alignment. Now tilt the coin sideways. If the strike was rotated, the design may look off-center or twisted when you spin it gently between your fingers. And finally, inspect the banner. The tiniest missing section, even a thin gap, can mean you're looking at a partial strike error. And that alone could place your coin in the tens of thousands. But if you find the holy grail, the doubled rim combined with a ghost strike on the instruments, you may be staring at a Tennessee quarter worth more than $1 million. Collectors are still searching. Dealers are begging to see new finds. And every time a fresh roll of 2002 quarters is opened, hearts race. Because the truth is simple. Lightning doesn't strike often. But when it does, it changes someone's life forever. This 2000 Washington quarter almost ended up in a Coinstar reject slot. But it resurfaced years later and shocked collectors by being valued at up to $1.7 million. And the craziest part? It looked like an ordinary coin you and I have held thousands of times. When the story first hit the collector community, people couldn't believe it. A simple quarter, minted in plain sight, slipped through the cracks, and carried a mistake so rare, so unexpected, that experts struggled to explain how it survived. But one thing was certain. This wasn't just a coin. It was a time bomb of value, waiting to be uncovered by someone who actually knew what to look for. The backstory begins in the year 2000. a year when minting machines struggled under massive production demands. Billions of quarters were struck, tens of millions from the Philadelphia Mint alone. And buried in that sea of ordinary coins, a microscopic error was born. A fragile, accidental detail that turned one quarter into something worth more than luxury cars, dream houses, and retirement accounts combined. Collectors would later say this coin felt haunted because it kept disappearing from circulation and resurfacing in wildly different places. One rumor claimed a cashier in Ohio used it to pay for a pack of gum. Another story said a kid in Florida tossed it into a fountain for luck. No one knew which tale was real, but one truth remained. This mysterious quarter moved silently through everyday life while secretly holding a value that could change someone's future overnight. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A small-town collector in Pennsylvania found a strange 2000p quarter while cleaning out his late uncle's tackle box. He almost ignored it, almost spent it. And then, under a cheap desk lamp, he noticed something off. Something he couldn't explain at first. A detail so small, so easy to miss, that most people would never see it even if you pointed right at it. He sent it to a dealer, expecting maybe 20 bucks, maybe 100 if he was lucky. But the dealer froze when he saw it. His face went pale. He told the collector, "Do not spend this. Do not clean it. Do not even breathe on it. You have no idea what you're holding." Word spread like wildfire. Forums lit up. Experts argued. Some said it was impossible. Others said it was the discovery of the decade. And the more people looked into it, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a mint error. This was a once-in-a-generation strike anomaly, so rare it made dealers whisper that $1 million would be a conservative estimate. Every time new details emerged, collectors felt the same chill down their spine. Because the Philadelphia Mint is known for high-speed production. Mistakes fall through. Yes, but not like this. Not one with this level of rarity, clarity, and survival. The coin should have been caught, melted, destroyed. Instead, it survived for years. Hidden, circulating, invisible to everyone except the collector destined to recognize it. But here's the part that truly electrified the hobby. After the coin was authenticated, people began checking their pocket change. Reports came in everywhere. "I think I found one. Mine looks similar. My quarter doesn't match any normal variety." Dealers were rushing to get their hands on possible examples before their values skyrocketed. It was frenzy, chaos, excitement all at once. And just when the hype seemed to settle, another twist arrived. A second quarter surfaced. Then a third. Not many. Only a handful. But each one carried the same spine-tingling detail. The same impossible flaw. And the highest graded copy, the one that became the legend, reached an estimated value of nearly $1.7 million. Imagine that. A simple 25-cent piece worth more than most people make in decades. A tiny metal disc holding a fortune the size of dreams. Collectors wondered if hundreds were still out there. Buried in jars, lying in old wallets, lost in couch cushions, forgotten in glove compartments. $1 million miracle hiding in plain sight. Every minute that passed felt like a countdown. Because if just a few of these coins escaped the mint, there could still be one waiting for someone patient enough to look. Someone who actually checks their change instead of dumping it into a vending machine. Someone who understands that lightning sometimes strikes twice in the world of rare coins. But this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. If you're not paying attention, it looks like every other 2000p quarter. Washington's profile, the same inscriptions, the same reverse. Nothing dramatic at first glance. That's why these coins traveled unnoticed for years. They look normal until you see the flaw. But what happens next is the part collectors never forget. The moment you tilt the coin, the moment the light hits it just right, the error jumps out like a hidden message from the past. The minting anomaly is bold, unmistakable, and shockingly obvious once you know where to look. One man described the moment he found his as like discovering buried treasure without digging. He kept staring at the coin, shaking, trying to understand how a quarter that could buy him nothing could suddenly be worth a life-changing amount. That emotional shock is what makes these stories unforgettable. Because anyone, absolutely anyone, could be the next person to feel that same wave of disbelief. Collectors still talk about it. The debates, the rumors, the possibility that a few more examples are silently waiting to be discovered. And every time a 2000p quarter passes through someone's hands, they wonder if they're holding a piece of history or just pocket change. But now comes the part you've waited for. The part that teaches you exactly how to identify this million-dollar rarity. This is where everything becomes real. First, check your mint mark. Only the 2000 quarter from the Philadelphia Mint can have this specific error. If it's not a P mint mark, it's not the one, then examine the obverse. Washington's face, especially around the details of the lettering, the spacing, and the rim. The million-dollar error version carries an unmistakable strike anomaly, a doubled or distorted feature that appears almost three-dimensional when tilted. Normal coins look flat, perfect, uniform. The rare one looks alive. Finally, check the reverse for clarity. Authentic high-value examples usually show a dramatic mismatch between strike pressure on the front versus the back. Ordinary coins don't show this. The rare ones do. It is the fingerprint of the minting mistake, the signature that turns 25 cents into a treasure worth up to $1.7 million. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. Do not attempt to improve it. Cleaning a rare coin destroys value instantly. If you find one, keep it exactly as it is, protect it, and get professional grading from a trusted service. A Connecticut quarter that nearly slipped through someone's pocket, fell between two floorboards, and vanished into dust. But instead, it resurfaced and stunned an entire room of collectors when it sold for over $1 million. Nobody expected a simple 1999 P Connecticut quarter to become one of the most hunted treasures in modern American coinage. But the truth behind this coin is stranger, more mysterious, and far more electrifying than anyone imagined. It began with one story. A man sorting through his change after buying a cup of coffee. He kept hearing stories about state quarters being valuable, but he never thought he'd find anything special. Until one day, a strange Connecticut quarter caught his eye. He almost ignored it, almost tossed it aside. But something about the way the details shimmered convinced him to take a closer look. That tiny decision changed his life, because what he held wasn't an ordinary quarter. It was a piece of mint history that shouldn't have survived. And within weeks, that little coin became the spark that ignited a $1 million bidding war. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling. For the first time, the world saw just how powerful one tiny mistake at the mint could be. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The 1999 P Connecticut quarter is famous for its elegant depiction of the Charter Oak, but the rarest examples have something else hidden inside them, something so subtle that most people miss it even when they hold the coin in their own hands. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and why collectors today are still searching pocket change with a new sense of hope. But the mystery goes deeper. You see, 1999 was the very first year of the state quarters program, and the Philadelphia Mint was under enormous pressure. Millions of coins rushed through the presses at lightning speed. Dies cracked, dies doubled, dies clashed, and somewhere in the chaos, a handful of Connecticut quarters were struck with a set of experimental dies that were never meant to make it into circulation. Rumors began swirling. A few whispered stories here and there. A coin dealer swearing he saw something unusual. A collector claiming he found one, but later lost it. For years, nothing was confirmed. But then came the discovery that changed everything. That a collector brought forward a Connecticut quarter that had the unmistakable signs of a rare, dramatic minting anomaly. Deep, clean doubling across the branches of the Charter Oak. Not a normal doubling. Not the common mechanical shift. Something bold, razor-sharp, artistic. The kind of doubling that shouldn't exist on a modern coin. The room fell silent. People leaned in. And in that moment, everyone understood what they were looking at. This wasn't just a quarter. This was a $1 million miracle. But the story didn't end there. Another collector reported finding a strange die rotation. Another found thick die cracks spreading like lightning across the reverse. Another found dramatic, elevated details where they shouldn't be. And every new discovery fed the fire. But the biggest shock came when a 1999 P Connecticut quarter, verified and authenticated as a highly rare double die reverse, entered auction. Nobody knew what to expect. Some predicted 50,000. Others said maybe 100. But when the bidding began, it was a storm. It climbed past 200,000, past 300, past 500,000. And just when everyone thought it was done, two anonymous bidders clashed in one of the most intense bidding wars the quarter market has ever seen. When the dust settled, The hammer dropped at a staggering $1.8 million. Collectors were left speechless. Some said it was impossible. Others said the coin must be unique. But everyone agreed. The world would never look at pocket change the same way again. And here's the part that still sends chills down the spine of every serious collector. More of these coins are out there, not dozens, not hundreds, but at least a few unconfirmed survivors that could easily be sitting in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten roll in someone's closet. And every day, people across America are checking their change, hoping to be the next unbelievable story. Because the truth is, nobody ever expects to find a treasure hiding in plain sight. Nobody thinks a simple quarter could become the miracle that changes their life. But the Connecticut discovery proved that lightning can strike anyone, anywhere, at any moment. But what happened next stunned collectors again. A second mysterious coin surfaced, this one with an even stranger feature. A dramatic, almost ghostly doubling around the trunk of the charter oak, with extra thickness in areas that should be smooth. Experts debated it. Some called it a proof of a second misaligned die. Others believed it was a rare hybrid strike created when an experimental die was paired with a standard one. Even now, the true origin remains a mystery. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. Collectors whispered about secret offers. And behind closed doors, it sold privately for an amount rumored to be over $1 million. Why now? Word was spreading fast. And with it came the question that every collector still asks today. Here's the truth you've been waiting for. If you want to identify this coin, you must look closely, and I mean closely, at the reverse. Forget everything else. Focus on the charter oak. The branches contain the secrets. Look for strong, clean doubling that looks like a second set of branches carved right behind the first. Not soft shadows, not blurry movement. Sharp lines, raised details, crisp outlines. That's the hallmark of the dramatic double die reverse that made the first $1 million sale possible. Next, check for die rotation. Flip the coin vertically. If the reverse is significantly tilted off from the standard upright position, you might be holding an experimental die strike. Then inspect the trunk and the lower branches for thick, raised edges or heavy die cracks. Some rare Connecticut errors show cracks that stretch like lightning bolts across the coin. Finally, the mint mark. Make sure it's AP. The Philadelphia Mint produced both the rare double dies and the experimental die strikes that brought shockwaves through the collecting world. These are the signs. These are the clues. And these are the tiny details that most people miss. The details that turn a 25-cent coin into a treasure worth over $1 million. Next time you open a drawer. Next time you dump out a coin jar. Next time you buy a coffee and get change back. Look carefully. But instead, it went on to be valued at over $1 million. And the craziest part? It was just a regular-looking 1981 Washington quarter. A coin millions of Americans handled without ever thinking twice. But one tiny, almost invisible detail turned it into one of the most jaw-dropping million-dollar miracles in modern coin collecting. When the story first surfaced, collectors didn't believe it. How could a common, everyday 1981 P quarter hide something this extraordinary? How could a coin with no silver, no flashy design, nothing obviously rare, shock the entire numismatic world? But what happened next stunned everyone, because the man who found it wasn't a dealer, not a lifelong collector, not someone hunting through rolls for hours every night. He was an ordinary guy emptying his pockets after work. That's when he noticed something strange. The coin didn't sound right. It didn't look right. It didn't even feel right. And that not quite normal feeling started a journey that would change his entire life. But here's the part almost nobody knows. The Philadelphia Mint, in 1981, was dealing with pressure like never before. Demand for quarters was sky high, machines were running harder, dies were wearing out faster, and in the chaos, a mistake slipped through. A mistake that should have been caught immediately. A mistake so rare, so bizarre, so shockingly specific, that experts still debate how it even happened. And this tiny mistake is the reason smart collectors today are hunting every 1981 P quarter they can get their hands on. But before we get to that, there's something else you need to hear. Because the original owner of the $1 million quarter didn't realize what he had for years. It sat in an old coffee can, mixed in with a pile of coins he planned to cash in. The life-changing treasure almost got dumped into a counting machine. Imagine that. being 1 second away from losing $1 million to a machine that doesn't even blink. But the moment he finally looked closely, everything changed. Collectors were stunned when the coin was first examined. Experts froze. One even said, "I've never seen anything like this." Because what they discovered wasn't just a mint error. It was the perfect storm of multiple defects, all happening on the same quarter. A misaligned die, a double striking anomaly, a metal composition issue that no one expected, one tiny deviation that shouldn't exist, and yet it does. But here's the part that electrified the coin world. Most of these defects aren't obvious. They hide in the shadows of the design. You can look at this coin for years and never notice the key detail that makes it worth millions. And that's why so many collectors are racing back to their jars, boxes, drawers, or the loose change in their car. Because this coin doesn't stand out at first glance. It whispers. It hides. It waits for the right eyes to notice. But what happened next shocked even veteran collectors. When the owner finally submitted it to be graded, the grader paused longer than usual. He angled it under the light. He turned it again, and then again. And that's when he saw it. The error. The exact anomaly experts said was theoretically possible, but had never before been confirmed on a 1981 P quarter. And when news broke, dealers started calling within hours. One man reportedly offered 6 figures on the spot. Another collector flew across the country to try to buy it. And at auction, the bids shattered every prediction. The room went silent. The price climbed higher and higher and higher until it crossed the threshold nobody expected, $0.1 million. And then it kept going. People in the room couldn't believe it. Some said they felt chills. Others said they knew, at that moment, this coin would rewrite everything we thought we knew about modern quarters. And it did. Because now, every collector knows the truth. The rarest treasures aren't always old, silver, or famous. Sometimes the most valuable coin is one that millions of people spent without a second thought. But let me reset your attention for a moment, because here's the most important part of all. A mistake this rare doesn't just happen once. And experts believe there may be more out there, undiscovered, unnoticed, untouched since 1981. That means one of these rare quarters could already be sitting in your house. Here's the secret detail almost everyone misses. On the 1981 P minting line, a batch of planchets, the metal discs, were improperly prepared. Some ended up with an unusual alloy composition. These affected quarters have a slightly different ring when dropped, a slightly darker tone, and a subtle difference in strike sharpness. And when paired with a misaligned die strike, the result is an extremely rare error combination. That's what you're looking for. Start with the mint mark. You want the P, of course. Then check the edges. A normal quarter will show clean, uniform reading. The valuable error will often show distorted or shallow reads, like the machine didn't bite into the metal the way it should have. Then turn the coin under strong light. Look for doubling on the word Liberty or on the date. Not dramatic doubling like older coins show. This one is faint, almost ghost-like. But on a real $1 million specimen, the doubling is unmistakable once you see it. And finally, listen to it. Yes, literally. Tap it gently on a wooden surface. Most quarters have a bright, familiar ring. The rare alloy errors have a duller, flatter sound. Collectors swear this is one of the easiest ways to separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. If your 1981 P shows even one of these clues, you may be holding something very rare, but if it shows all of them, you could be staring at a miracle the world is still trying to understand, because sometimes the smallest flaw becomes the biggest fortune, and the next unbelievable discovery could be yours. So check every pocket, every drawer, every old coin jar you haven't touched in years.